Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of From Page to Stage. I'm your host, Wendy Corner, and this podcast is for authors who either have already made it to stage and done both, for authors who they need a bit of support, a bit of inspiration, they need some support to get onto the stage. So that's who this is for. Welcome if you are in either camp. We have interviews with people who've already done it. We've had people who are just about to get onto stage. And by stage, podcast is a stage. It doesn't have to be that raised platform with a microphone and spouting forth. So welcome, you're in the right place. Now, I would love to introduce you to my new friend, Drew Deraney. Drew has had his book out for a year. Now, it is a fabulous book. But before we get there, I'm going to say, Drew, could you give us some cliff notes? How did you get to where you are now?
That's a fun story. I never thought I'd call it fun. When you're in the middle of it, it's not too fun. I started by saying July of 2015, I find out from my best friend that my wife is leaving me. She told my friend and his wife that she was leaving. She has one story why she did that. They have another, and I believe them. And so we did 3 years of mediation. Now, I was blindsided by her wanting the divorce. I realize now that there were a lot of, as they call them, red flags that I either saw and chose to ignore or missed them completely. And so fast forward to those after 3 years of mediation, our kids were 7, 9, and 11 when she moved out. The divorce was final April of 2018. Okay. So now I walk out of the courthouse with the piece of paper, legal closure, as I call that. Other closure is a lot more challenging. And 6 months later was my 50th birthday. So I threw myself a huge birthday party. But one of the best days of my life, people from all aspects of my life came. And I was ready to rise up, chapter 2 of my life. Here we go. Now, I had been with hospitals in the healthcare setting for 24 years. And right around the same time as my birthday, I had to submit what they call a HIPAA violation because the manager in my department who reported me accidentally lost some patient information, private information. And it was not her fault. It was in the bottom drawer of a file cabinet that was discarded by the construction department during our move to another office. And I just needed to submit it. So I submitted it. And about 10 days after my birthday, which coincidentally was around 10 days after I submitted that violation to the compliance officer, I was called into human resources and I was fired. A leadership change. And when you're an at-will employee, it is what it is. They're not going to tell you really why. I kind of knew. And as I'm leaving, I was locked out of my email, escorted to my car. The manager had to ship all my stuff home from my office. And around 7 weeks later on LinkedIn, there was one of those alerts that says, hey, congratulate so-and-so on her promotion. So she was promoted to my director's position and I was shown the door. Now, I was a man who tied my self-identity and self-worth to my wife and family and my profession. Very unhealthy thing to do. I lost both in 6 months. So I was kind of starting that victim and blame mindset. And then a few days, probably about 7 to 10 days after I lost my job, I'm bringing my son to his therapy session. And I get called in by the therapist and she's crying. And so is my son.
She's crying.
She was crying and he's crying too. He says, I'm sorry, Daddy. He was 14 at the time. I hugged him. I'm like, what's going on? I found out that the night before my son was in the master bathroom, I thought taking a shower, he had suicidal ideations. And thank God his girlfriend was on the phone because she talked him down. So then we had to go through that whole process. And it was recommended that we find him some help, obviously, because we couldn't help. We didn't know what to do. And there was a place that would be able to take him, but they didn't have a bed available for 40 days, 40. So I was with my son for 40 days straight. I didn't sleep. All I did is I took care of him. I said, look, my job is to take care of you. Your health is the most important thing. And so that's what I did. Now, getting close to that December 8th day when we had to bring him up, about a week before that was my father's 80th birthday. So we're at my dad's house. And my dad says to me, I thought out of nowhere, he goes, Drew, I'm very proud of you. And I said, thanks, Dad. I know you are, but why are you saying that? He said, I don't know how you're doing it. You know, first the divorce, then the job, now, you know, my son. And he says, and you're still taking care of the other two at home, and you check here every day on your mother and me. I don't know how you're doing it. And here was the key pivotal moment for me with him. He said, I know you've always wanted to own your own company, and I always told you not to. My dad was with IBM. IBM is a company where people stay forever. He was there for 35 years. So I followed suit. It's the belief system I was taught. He said to me, I know you're not happy. I want you to be happy. Do whatever's going to take you to be happy. Your mother and I will support you no matter what. So I'm like crying. I hug him. Thank you, Dad. And so the few days later, I started Profit Compassion. Profit Compassion, it was going to be a healthcare consulting company where I educated caregivers on how to effectively communicate the plan of care for patients and families so they can understand and leave healthier than when they get there. I figured I could impact the system better on the outside than I was able to on the inside. And I called it Profit Compassion because I know we can all profit from being compassionate, and we can profit from others being compassionate to us. So there was my dream. Well, fast forward to December 8th, we dropped my son off at the place. And as we're leaving, my parents had come up with us. So did the ex-wife and the other two kids. My son points to my parents and says, I hope nothing happens to them while I'm here. And I said, honey, nothing's going to happen to them. You take care of yourself. Your health is the most important thing. Fast forward to Christmas Eve, 2018. My father goes into the bathroom, sits on the toilet, strains, perforates his bowel, goes into septic shock. And 3 weeks later, my dad passes away in the intensive care unit. So my son's premonition came true. He's up there angry at us for not letting him come home. I'm here blaming everybody you can imagine, blaming the wife for the divorce, blaming my boss for the job firing, blaming myself for my son, and blaming God for taking my dad. And I was living in victim and blame mindset and didn't really want to be around anymore. I had vowed my kids I'd be the best dad I could possibly be. So I knew if I, left this earth or gave up, it wouldn't be a good role model. So I figured I'll plow through it. I found my temporary purpose in just getting them through it and getting my mother through it. Now, we all got through it. I just didn't do it for myself a healthy way. I did what men are supposed to do. Suck it up, man up, run your support systems. Don't ask for help. Just do it. So I did. When I got on the other side, I was a shell of a man. I was done. I had no idea what my purpose was. And I remember receiving a cold call. And the person on the other line says, do you want to buy a franchise? I'm like, I don't want to flip burgers. They said, no, there's a lot of service-based franchises. I told them my story. I said, I do want to have my own company, but I'm giving up on my dream. Because when my dad died, I gave up on the dream of the healthcare stuff. So too many self-limiting beliefs I allowed to and then I looked into the franchise process. I found a company. I bought a franchise for business consulting, helping companies save money. Very honorable, but not my passion. And I did it. I rationalized, paid the franchise fee, figured, okay, now I got this business. I didn't know how to run a business. I was sleepwalking through it, really not knowing what I was doing. And then COVID hit. And even worse, I'm like, blame mentality. Now what am I going to do? Had to pivot, did the virtual networking online. I mean, heck, my clients were supposed to be companies that were told to shut down. How are you gonna build a business that way? The silver lining was through all the virtual networking, I met an editor. She was out in Arizona, and I'm in New Jersey. And her little phrase was how to write a book in 90 days without writing a word. Right up my alley. I didn't want to write. I wanted to tell my story. So hey, Zoom was around, and so's Otter. So we recorded, and I would tell my story to the camera, and Otter would transcribe it. So it'd be my words onto writing, and then I could edit from there. The amazing thing was I was doing a lot of self-reflection and self-awareness. And as my mindset was going from more of a fixed to a growth mindset, and I was really working on myself. And I kept repeating my story out loud to anybody who would listen. at a certain part during writing that book, I almost had an emotional breakdown in a good way, because by hearing my voice out loud, I started to heal myself from within. It was cathartic. And I was like, what the heck's going on? The more I tell my story, the better I feel. So I started telling people and all this networking stuff. And in these one-on-one and on Zoom, I would ask them to tell their story. They would tell their story, and all of a sudden they're crying. They're saying, I haven't told that story in a long time, or I've never told it, and I thought I healed, and they're feeling better. And then somebody said that my superpower is breaking down walls. So something hit me. So Saturday morning in August of 2022, I woke up and I made a decision. I said, I know what my purpose is. I walked away from the franchise. I breached a 10-year agreement. And I said, my job, my mission in life is to get men to open their mouths, tell their story, share their emotions, so I can help them heal like I healed myself. And then I was able to finish the book with that motivation. And that's what happened. And that's why I'm here now. So.
What? That is quite a tale.
Mm.
And that all started in 2015, did you say?
2015, when she moved out, and then 3 grueling years of mediation, because I thought I could save the marriage. I was clueless. And not,
So we're
I
talking
realized
about
now,
9 years.
You're talking about 9
then
years.
and the time that we're now
2015
recording.
to right now. 2015 to right now. 9 years. Yep.
Wow. Wow. Well, that's a tough trot, sir. And I absolutely honor your journey, because we had a conversation earlier on this week. So a guest on your podcast.
Absolutely were.
As you say, the thing is that it's those tough moments, the ones that kind of slap you over the head, that go, yeah no, change direction. So that's what prompted you to write your book.
That's you know what, I wanted to write a book on resiliency. Was the initial thing, because I was determined to fight through it. And so that I believe my whole life I wanted to write a book, but I'm going to say I was lazy, putting the time in. That's why I like the idea of talking it instead of writing chapter 1, having it, the old fashioned way didn't turn me on. So I like this way.
Well, that's the thing with modern day technology. You don't actually have to write it. I'm in touch with a number of authors who are actually dyslexic.
Yeah,
and there is a big challenge. If you're dyslexic and you're faced with even the thought of writing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
These days, we all have one of these babies.
Yes, we do.
We have an audio recorder on there.
Yes, we do.
We can stick it through something like Otter for transcription, and suddenly, there you go. That's all sorted.
That's right. That's right.
We are, in some ways, blessed to live in a very modern digital age.
Absolutely.
Lovely. So that was what prompted the book.
Yeah.
Tell me, when you're speaking, had you written, so you're saying you're not a great writer, you hadn't had any particular writing experience?
No, I used to be a good writer before I went into college, because I went to college for psychology.
Okay.
And psychology, you can write, if you could actually say in 2 words and they end up having you write 500 words. So I got quite verbose. And then when I went back to hospitals, they had to retrain me how to write like business writing. So I've been all over the place. So I don't know what it would come out with if I had to. Yeah. So I figured it was safer just to tell it. Yeah.
Fair enough. So tell me about your speaking, because obviously you've got your own podcast. We've mentioned that already.
Yeah.
What other speaking experience have you had?
Well, when I was in the healthcare industry, I did a lot of coaching in patient experience. So I had a lot of meetings with all the nurses and the doctors. But my favorite and best speaking, J.D. Power. I don't know if you ever heard of the company J.D. Power, but they do a lot of awards, and they did get into healthcare. And I was asked to speak. I did a breakout session at one of their conventions. I believe it was in Dallas. And it was about healthcare excellence. And so I did a breakout on, I had coined a term that kind of really was about self-awareness and how in a busy environment, how to help the nurses and doctors still be self-aware, so they're aware of what their behaviors are affecting the patients. So that was awesome. I love that, and that's where I got like the bug to speak publicly. But then when I left healthcare, and I'm rebranding myself, now it's been podcasts. And I've done a couple at the Chamber of Commerce. I just did a book signing at a library. And for the most
Did
part,
you do a reading as well at the book signing?
I did. I read some excerpts from my book and did some Q&A, which was awesome. I'd like to do more of that. And that was just in March I did that, so it was very recent. But yeah, the podcasting. I mean, I'll speak in any area. I'm one person. I've always loved speaking publicly. I remember in grade school up on stage, we did Tom Sawyer was one of the plays, and I was in that, and I just people call me a ham. I just like to go on stage and be the spokesperson. So
Have you done the improv?
I have not done any improv. I've talked to people about improv. It sounds awesome. But no, I've not. I've had no really formal training, except for it was last year. I did do a public speaking boot camp because I hired a public speaking coach, and then I was down in Miami, so we were in their studio, and they did some teaching, and so I know some of the stuff I'm supposed to do and supposed to not do, and all that. But either way, I'm comfortable on stage, and I kind of get lost in it. I kind of forget I'm talking to an audience. Like now, I'm even forgetting I'm on a podcast. I'm just having a conversation with you right now.
Well, this is the joy of podcasts, isn't it? That one-on-one conversation. Because a lot of the authors that I'm working with have put their books out and they poured their heart and soul into it, words of their zone of genius on paper. Yeah. You want me to talk about it? And that's when the nerves raise up and all sorts of wonderful things about, I'm an author, I'm not a speaker.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Both. It's not an either or.
No,
So that's when I say, can you do a one-on-one conversation like we're having now? Well, no. What about a podcast? Is that a stage? As I said in the introduction, a lot of people don't even consider podcasts as stages, but I'll share with you, if I may, and this is something for audience to listen in as well, because one of the ladies that I have interviewed, her podcast will be going out. I'm not going to say when, because we've got to tee them up. But she had this wonderful statement that every time I open my mouth with intention, it's a stage.
Love that.
And I sat there and went, whoa, that's a writer down.
I love that. You know what? It does make sense, because if you're saying something that people are leaning in and listening to, and you can impact so many people, even on a podcast. I don't know how, whatever the reach is, even if you reach one person and impact their life. Yeah, it's a very good point. It absolutely is. Yep.
Okay. So we've worked out that actually your speaking came before your writing.
Yeah.
So you've done the stage to page and now back to stage again.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, got to ask, have you got another book in the percolation?
I do. And my intent is you're going to be in it also, because my podcast is called From Caving Into Crushing It. And my favorite part of it is at the end of each episode, I ask the guest, I give them a chance to sit down with their younger self, to give their younger self some advice about life and then advice about business. My goal is once I get up to 100 recorded episodes, I recorded number 90 today. When I get 100, I'm going to start writing the book, because I want to call it From Caving Into Crushing It, Lessons from Your Younger Self. So imagine picking up a book in the bookstore, and there's 100 different pieces of advice, really 200 pieces of advice from adults who've gone through the fire, come through stronger, and now are giving their advice to their younger self, which in essence can be to their older self or other people. And you can pick up and maybe people can avoid having some of the hardships in life if they're prepared of how they can handle something before things happen. And so that will be my next book, and I'm looking forward to starting that.
Excellent. Now,
Mm.
you've already got the recordings. So is this
I
going to
do.
be a transcription one, or are you actually going to do the writing?
You know what? I think a majority of it's going to be transcription. What I'm thinking though is I'm going to take one of what I believe is the core issue in each episode, and I'll broaden that with my own words on how it can relate to other people, not just that individual. Because more often than not, we believe we're on an island all by ourselves. Yet
I'm
trauma is
different.
relative. Trauma is relative too. You know, I want people to know that you're not by yourself, regardless of what the story is. There's always an underlying reason why the person went through that. And a lot of times we actually decide to sabotage ourselves and we don't even realize it. And that's really the crux of all of this is like, yeah, we all go through adversity. It's how we respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
We have a choice. That's the choice.
Mm.
And that's the focus of the book is that we all have a choice how we respond to adversity. And you know, I'm really thinking that the intro is going to be something like there's 3 types of men, 3 types of women, and we can be that all 3 in the same day. And those men and women are, I'm going to say women for your sake. So say woman number 1 is the woman who has a defining moment right in front of her and she doesn't notice it. Blind spots and says, doesn't see anything and is going to live life the same unfulfilling way. And then there's woman number 2, sees something in front of her, looks at it and says, you know what? That adversity is a barrier. That's life happening to me. I'm a victim. I'm a blamer. I'm not going near that. I'm staying. I'm going to live my same life. And then there's woman number 3, which you are, and which is why I had you on the podcast. You're a woman who where something's right in front of you and you're like, that challenge, that's an opportunity. That's an opportunity to become a stronger person. That's life happening for me. I'm going to take this on and I'm going to be a better person for it. And that is, I think, how I'll start the book that these people in this book are men and women number 3.
Mm. Nice. I like that. So do you have a target date for when this one's coming out?
It's probably best to set one because that's what's going to get my butt doing this thing. And
well, obviously you need to have the other 10 episodes.
Well, I got 10. Yeah. Well, right now I have another like 16 episodes, 26 episodes already scheduled.
Right.
So when I look at the date, I mean, I could even quickly look now that I know that episode 100 will be recorded on June 13th. Okay. So I'll say by Independence Day in the US, by July 4th, I'll say maybe July 5th. I'll start on it. I'll give myself.
Yes. I was going to say, you expect to finish on June 13th.
Start at July 5. And if it takes me a year, you know, I'll put it out in, you know, July 5 of 2025, let's say. Yeah. So we'll do that. We'll talk about it.
Or even, I mean, forgive me, I'm not sure whether Independence Day is something that you traditionally give gifts to as well, gifts on as well. But it could be something, you know, think about your Hallmark dates through the year.
Independence Day is the birth of the United States of America, 1776. So maybe I could just give it to people as a country's birthday gift. Maybe do that.
As I said, you think about your Hallmark dates, don't you? When do people do presents? And so if it's going to be coming out towards the end of the year, sort of mid to late November, it's a Christmas present.
Yeah. So we'll see. But I'm looking forward to getting that going, and it is comforting that I've done it already once. So I will miss the landmines this time. Excellent.
Well, listen, Drew, when you do have a launch date, when you've got a publication date, do let me know. I will go in and change the show notes to this episode so that people watching this later down the track can go, oh, hang on a minute, when is it? Oh, yeah, that's next week. And can get some work from it. Because what we'll also do is if you let me know as part of your launch strategy, I can start flagging it up to my network as well.
Okay, sounds great. I will do that. Thank you.
Beautiful. Okay, so we've looked at what came first, the speaking or the writing. The fact that you're doing both reasonably happily. That's more on the writey bit than the speaky bit. But then we've got a book on the go. So as we're kind of winding up, I'm wondering, have you got any words of wisdom that you can share with authors as to how you embody, how you take your words from page, bring them to life when you're on stage?
Yeah, absolutely. I do a lot of, when you see me doing this, if you see me do that, that's me anchoring a thought to my heart. Because when I write and speak, I want myself to have a visceral reaction, whether it's goosebumps or something. So if I'm touching my heart, I'm going to want the audience to feel something. So it will get me to, whether it's body language, whether it's an emphasis on a word, whether it's, I'll be able to grab deep down close to my heart what I want to get across. So, and a lot of times we'll find that if you do some tapping on a certain part of your body, I know my stress is right around here. So if I'm thinking positively that I'm taking from the heart, I get less stressed. Nice. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah. So but
that's one of your anchor techniques.
It is, because it relaxes me, because I take that deep breath, and when I touch my heart, what a deep breath does, it takes you out of your emotional ego and into your rational ego. And if I'm thinking about my heart and what I love and fear cannot exist at the same time with the human brain. So therefore, I can't be afraid of speaking in public. So I kind of trick my brain into, it's all fine, man, love, and that kind of thing. And it works. Yeah.
I have a word that I've coined.
Yeah.
When the speakers I work with are just nervous, I'm going, go on, we're going to excited. It's actually the same neurotransmitters the receptor sites that are involved. Okay. As you said, you can't do both and. Right. So, and they go, whoa, I'm a long way from excited. Well, I tell you what, how about we go halfway and go for Excitemous? They go, what?
Excitement.
You're nervous, but you're meeting the excitement.
Excitemous.
And they go, oh, that's just silly, Wendy. I mean, does it help? Well, yeah, it does. Go with Excitemous. So I love it. That's one of the quirky things that you get when you talk to me.
Well, I love that, because I got a chance when I went to that boot camp for public speaking, I got a chance to eat fire.
Eat fire? Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. It was big. I actually had to sign that I wouldn't hold anybody liable, because if I inhaled the smoke and the fire, my lungs would have imploded.
Oh, lovely.
Why I agreed to do this, I don't know. I just said, sure. He taught me what to do. And it was basically holding a big stick with a flame, and I had to yell at the flame and laugh at the flame. And and then I just took the deep breath, and I actually have a recording of it. I'll send it to you. It was kind of cool. And that's where I would do this. And that was my, if I do get nervous, if I'm doing a Facebook Live or whatever, which I do get nervous doing that, ironically, I can say, Drew, you ate fire. You can do this. Yeah. So it's kind of, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to share with you my little trick on that one, because from my feeling of being unstoppable, you might catch me doing this. And whether you can see, I've got my
it
up to the base of my neck.
Yeah.
When I was a probably year 12 student, so just coming up to finishing school, we had I haven't told this story for a long time. We had a self-defense class, because there'd been a couple of attacks in the local town, and we had the police round, and they were giving us some self-defense classes. And I was photographed on the front, well, not on the front page, but photographed on the local paper, throwing a policeman over my shoulder.
No. Oh my goodness.
Because it was that move that if they come at you trying to strangle you from behind, you grab the wrist and drop down on one knee and over they go.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm thinking, Wendy,
Wow.
you have to. I'm not that tall. 1 meter 62 for those of you in Euroland, and 5'3 3/4" for those of you in Imperial.
Okay.
6'4" Bobby.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And
Yeah.
the photo just grabbed it at the perfect moment, and you got
I
them
love it.
over my shoulder. So this for me, it reminds me, look, if you
Yeah.
can be a policeman, you can do this.
You could do this. I love that. Absolutely love that.
Yeah, it's an anchor point.
It is. Absolutely.
Exactly. Beautiful. So that's one of the things that you calm your nerves down, and you can take. But that, yeah, I'm wondering, is there a specific thing that you embody those words though? How do you get those across to your audience?
Well, geez, one thing that's helped me is, when people regret the past, it causes depression.
Mhm.
All right. Well, I replaced regret with forgiveness. Forgiving myself because I didn't have the tools at the time to decide something different. Right. So I've been able to get rid of regret. So when I'm writing, it's embodying more of forgiveness, and it flows better, more my authentic self. And then to get rid of my fear of the future, which is anxiety provoking, which sometimes will give you a writer's block and make you nervous, all kind of stuff. I read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and his first 2 chapters are about desire and faith. So if I have this intense desire to write a damn good book, and I have faith in a higher power that I'm going to have guidance, the fear of the future is gone. So now I've eliminated the depression due to regret from the past, and I've eliminated anxiety or due to the fear of the future. Now the focus is, how do I get in the present moment? Because I want to eliminate my victim and blame mindset, and that's gratitude.
Nice.
So you think about the flow when you're writing and putting words to paper and to elicit emotion. If you can teach the brain to get rid of regret, blame or victim mentality and fear, and replace it with forgiveness, gratitude, desire, and faith, you can't lose.
You can't. And that alignment with head and heart, because obviously
Yes.
you are aligning your thoughts and your actual heart feelings. Where does the energy go? Through your voice.
Yeah, it does. It goes.
And it has to come out as you're on stage.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, I mean, really what motivates me is that men inherently are taught to suppress.
Yes.
I'm not a man who suppresses. So by releasing, you're not only releasing toxins, you're releasing your voice. Your voice can be heard a lot greater distance if you release it than if you keep it inside. And I want to impact a lot of people. So that's my motivation to be able to do it.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Drew.
You're welcome.
Have we missed anything off?
Say that again?
Have we missed anything off?
Anything? No, only that I want to make a strong suggestion to men and the women out there is I really strongly suggest you choose to write your own story instead of letting others write it for you. Too many people are on their deathbed and they regret not telling their story. So you have a choice right now to choose to write your story and not let others write it for you, because they will write it. And it's not going to be the truth. So only you have the truth. So you may as well just tell your story. You can write it or speak it, whatever way, but get it out there, because there are people who need to hear your story, and you need to hear it too. Like I said, so.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
You're
That's
welcome.
wonderful. Thank you so much, Drew, for sharing with
You're
our
welcome.
audience. You're from page to stage.
Absolutely.
For now, bye from us.
Bye, everybody.